After 2 years of living in China, hiding, and that during that time, the man who bought me, he offered me a deal that if I become his mistress, he would bring my mother and he would bring my father from North Korea. So I accepted the deal from him. So I became his mistress, and my father came to China, but he had untreated lung cancer, so he passed away. So I had to bury his ashes in the middle of mountain. And then after 2 years, the man who bought me, for some reason, he let me go. So my mother and I was free.
My father died in China after he escaped North Korea. And I had to bury him at 3 a.m. in secret. I was 14 years old. I couldn't even cry. I was afraid to be sent back to North Korea.
없어. 파스텔 한두 사람 이렇게 돈을 주고 우리가 샀어요. 그 사람들이 가서 멀리 올라가서 그 연미가 그때는 우리 큰 딸을 찾지 못했으니까 연미가 아버지에게 시신을 안고
And then, like 3 a.m., we had to move his body. Everybody's sleeping, so, and then I buried him like on the midnight by myself. And I was sitting there and it was so cold and there's nobody I can call. There's nobody come to my father's funeral, nobody knows it.
My father died in China after he escaped North Korea. And I had to bury him at 3 a.m. in secret. I was 14 years old. I was raped at the age of 13.
I was raped at the age of 13. I have told my story many times, and I was not perfect, and I was hiding a secret. For the first time, I wrote down this whole story that I was trafficked. I was raped at the age of 13. And then we met Chinese missionaries, the Christian missionaries in China, and they told us how we can go to South Korea.
And all this time, do you still hope you don't know where your sister is?
No, I didn't.
Do you still have hope that you may reunite with her, that you may find her?
Yeah, I was still looking for her, and I was still hoping where she would be.
You crossed through the Gobi Desert?
Yeah.
And tell us about that a little bit.
It was
What do you do? Are groups typically helped by missionary groups or Christian groups? Or do the people, that's what I hear sometimes, or do the people of China come to your help? What happens once you get there and you realize you have to eat, you have to live?
I didn't know I was coming, and I was 13 years old. And when I got there, the first thing I saw was my mother raped. And the guy who took us to China was human trafficker, and he tricked us. So when we arrived in China, the Korean ethnic Chinese man was waiting for us. And then he was trying to rape me, and my mother protected me from there. And then we found out that if we want to stay in China, we have to be sold. Unless then we can go back to North Korea. But that means if I go back to North Korea, I will be imprisoned or dying from the starvation or disease, so I could not go back.
And so how do you survive? And first of all, what is your goal? Where are you trying to go at this point?
I didn't escape for freedom. I didn't escape for anything like that. I escaped for a bowl of rice. North Korea is so hard, and you don't think too much. You just want to survive. And we just crossed the river. And when we got there, they say, if you want to live in China, you gotta be sold. And you have to get married to a Chinese farmer. And if you don't want, you can go back. But I know I'm gonna die if I'm going back to North Korea. So my mother also being sold for a farmer, and her price was $65.
Yeon-mi was in hospital having her appendix removed when her sister suddenly disappeared. She had taken that decision with a friend to leave, and they hadn't told anybody. And when she came out, they were so scared, the three remaining members of the family, that Yeon-mi and her mother then went to try and find her. The journey into China took only a day. But it meant crossing 3 mountains and a frozen river that the whole time they were walking across they thought would give way at any time. When they got to the other side of the border, they found an ethnic Korean man who told them that their sister had gone on ahead, but he didn't know where she was. Tried to go back, but then he said, if you go back, you're going to be arrested. So they made that decision to stay. He then threatened to call the police, and he wanted to rape Yeon-mi, and her mother protected her. She said, how could you do this to a 13-year-old girl? And he said, well, they're 11, 12, 13, it's all the same. So to get themselves out of that situation, your mum offered herself, and her mother was raped in front of her.